Billy jumped up from this couch they were sitting on, lounging on, and charged me at the door. And I immediately got into a fight stance, I boxed a lot. And
Bill Murray has spent decades as one of Hollywood's most beloved and enigmatic figures. Known for his dry wit, offbeat charm, and unforgettable performances in films like Ghostbusters, Groundhog Day, and Lost in Translation, Murray has become a cultural icon. But behind the deadpan humor and mysterious aloofness lies a truth few have dared to explore. Bill Murray hasn't always gotten along with everyone on set. In fact, he's burned bridges, ignited feuds, and walked away from productions entirely when the tension boiled over. While some chalk it up to artistic differences, others claim Murray's moods and unpredictable behavior have clashed with co-stars to the point of no return. And now, at 74, after a long and often turbulent career, Murray has begun to open up, reflecting not only on his regrets, but on the actors he simply could never stand. From on-set shouting matches to decades-long grudges, this is the side of Bill Murray Hollywood tried to keep quiet. These are the 12 actors Bill Murray hated the most. And now, for the first time, the stories are finally coming out. It's no secret that Bill Murray and Chevy Chase shared one of the most volatile rivalries in the history of Saturday Night Live. Their feud began in the mid-1970s when Chase left SNL at the height of his popularity to pursue a film career, a move Murray and others saw as arrogant. When Chase returned to guest host the show in 1978, tensions erupted backstage. The two reportedly got into a screaming match that escalated into a physical fight just minutes before going on air. Crew members recalled fists flying and insults hurled, with Murray allegedly delivering a brutal jab about Chase's failing marriage. The fight cemented a decades-long frost between the two comedians, and although they later worked together in Caddyshack, the animosity never truly faded. Murray would later say that their personalities simply didn't mix. Chase thrived on attention, while Murray loathed vanity. Then came Lucy Liu. During the filming of Charlie's Angels in 2000, Murray played Bosley alongside Liu, Cameron Diaz, and Drew Barrymore. But what was supposed to be a light-hearted, campy action flick turned into a nightmare behind the scenes. According to multiple reports, Murray insulted Liu's acting ability during a rehearsal, allegedly saying she couldn't act and didn't belong among the other leads. Liu fired back, and the confrontation turned heated, with sources claiming she even threw punches. While Liu later downplayed the incident, it was clear the tension had left scars. Murray was replaced by Bernie Mac in the sequel, a move that spoke volumes. Years later, Liu finally addressed the clash publicly, stating that she stood up for herself in a toxic moment, and fans began seeing a different side of Murray's difficult genius persona. But perhaps the most dramatic behind-the-scenes battle came during the 1991 filming of What About Bob?, a comedy that masked a miserable production. Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss, two comedic powerhouses, were oil and water from day one. Dreyfuss later described Murray as a drunken bully who would taunt him, scream at him, and even throw things at him between takes. According to Dreyfuss, Murray once threw an ashtray at his head during an off-camera altercation. The tension was so palpable that the film's director had to separate the actors during breaks. While the on-screen chemistry was undeniable, Murray's annoying charm perfectly balanced Dreyfuss's neurotic energy. The real-life toxicity between them made the film's success bittersweet. Years later, Dreyfuss still referred to Murray as an Irish drunken bully, while Murray, true to form, responded with silence and a smirk. These early feuds defined the myth of Bill Murray, a brilliant yet mercurial figure who could command a room or tear it apart. Whether fueled by ego, creative control, or sheer personality clashes, these stories expose the cracks beneath the cool exterior. Murray wasn't just quirky, he could be confrontational, biting, and even cruel. And yet, even as tensions escalated, his performances remained magnetic, leaving audiences laughing while those behind the scenes nursed bruised egos and broken trust. These three names, Chevy Chase, Lucy Liu, and Richard Dreyfuss, weren't just co-stars. They were casualties in the storm that is Bill Murray's complicated brilliance. If there was ever a person in Hollywood who understood how to unlock the depth of Bill Murray's acting range, it was Harold Ramis, the man who helped shape some of Murray's most iconic roles. They were more than collaborators. They were close friends, almost like brothers. From Stripes to Ghostbusters to Groundhog Day, their creative chemistry was electric. Ramis, the thoughtful writer-director, and Murray, the unpredictable comedic genius, created gold together. But Groundhog Day marked the beginning of the end. During production, Murray was going through a difficult divorce and reportedly grew erratic and combative on set, clashing with Ramis over the tone of the film. Ramis wanted heartfelt comedy. Murray wanted existential melancholy. Their differences became explosive, and one day, Murray stopped speaking to Ramis entirely, delivering messages to the director via assistants like a Hollywood Cold War. After the film wrapped, they didn't speak for over 20 years. Ramis, heartbroken, admitted in interviews that losing Bill as a friend was one of the greatest sorrows of his life. It wasn't until Ramis was on his deathbed in 2014 that Murray finally visited him in Chicago for a quiet, tearful reconciliation. By then, it was too late to undo the decades of silence. Then there was Anjelica Huston, a regal presence in Hollywood, and someone not easily intimidated. Their clash came during the filming of The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, a quirky, stylized film directed by Wes Anderson. Huston later admitted in interviews that she was initially left out of the film's press tour, supposedly because of Murray. But the real tension, she said, came from the way Murray treated the cast and crew. While Anderson's sets are known for their family-like atmosphere, Murray reportedly kept to himself, rarely socializing and often arriving late. Huston called him a little grumpy and implied that his behavior bordered on rude. Though she stopped short of outright condemnation, the message was clear. Murray had alienated someone who had worked with everyone from Jack Nicholson to Martin Scorsese. For Huston to be put off meant something serious. She later admitted she had no interest in working with him again. And then there's the name that surprises many: Tom Hanks. Though they've never worked together directly, Hanks has reportedly made it clear behind the scenes that he has little patience for Bill Murray's erratic behavior. According to insiders, the two were nearly attached to a project in the late 90s, but the collaboration fell apart due to Murray's reputation. Hanks, known for his professionalism and kindness, is said to have dismissed the idea, reportedly saying he didn't want to deal with the circus that tends to follow Murray. There's no public record of direct confrontation, but in an industry where casting decisions are carefully managed, the fact that two of Hollywood's biggest icons have never shared a screen speaks volumes. Producers have long whispered that the clash was more personal than professional, that Hanks simply didn't trust the way Murray treated others on set. These three names, Ramis, Huston, and Hanks, represent a different kind of rupture. Not wild brawls or drunken shouting matches, but quiet heartbreak, deep disappointment, and silent estrangement. They show us that Murray's brilliance didn't just come at the cost of short-term blow-ups. It sometimes left behind lasting wounds. He wasn't just hard to work with. He could be emotionally distant, unpredictable, and unwilling to bend when it mattered most. His art, while unforgettable, often came with emotional fallout. And as time passed, those rifts turned into canyons, some repaired, others still echoing with things unsaid. While Bill Murray's earlier feuds were often attributed to creative differences or strong personalities clashing, the stories that emerged later in his career revealed something darker, an unsettling pattern of behavior that blurred the line between difficult genius and outright hostility. One of the most controversial accusations came from Gina Davis, who worked with Murray on the 1990 film Quick Change. At the time, Davis was an Oscar winner and a rising force in Hollywood. But years later, she revealed that Murray's behavior on set was far from charming. In her memoir, Dying of Politeness, Davis described how Murray allegedly berated her in front of the cast and crew, once screaming at her in her trailer for being late, when in fact, she had simply been following studio protocol. But the most chilling moment came during their first meeting. Davis recalled that Murray insisted she lie down on a bed in a hotel suite for a massage device demonstration that he refused to let go of. Feeling uncomfortable and cornered, she complied, fearing professional fallout. For decades, she stayed silent, too afraid to speak out against a powerful male star. Her account added a new dimension to Murray's legacy, painting a picture of someone whose behavior wasn't just abrasive, but deeply unsettling. Then came Rob Schneider, a longtime Saturday Night Live alumnus and no stranger to comedy's tough inner circles. Schneider publicly called out Murray, saying that Bill refused to speak to him or even acknowledge him during his time at SNL. While most of the cast got along, Schneider recalled feeling humiliated by Murray's cold, dismissive treatment. He claimed that Murray simply hated the newer cast, particularly those who came after his own era. Schneider didn't mince words, saying that Murray was not nice to us, and went out of his way to make them feel like second-class performers. For a show built on camaraderie and ensemble energy, the fracture was glaring. Schneider admitted that he tried to stay professional. But the damage was done. He walked away from the experience disillusioned by someone he once admired, and perhaps one of the most explosive and bizarre feuds involved Sean Young, the actress known for Blade Runner and No Way Out. Young was set to appear in Scrooged alongside Murray, but things quickly spiraled. According to production accounts, she and Murray clashed almost immediately. Young claimed that Murray was rude, condescending, and dismissive. The friction grew so intense that she was reportedly fired from the project, an unceremonious exit that sidelined her from a high-profile holiday film. While some dismissed her as difficult, others began to question whether the label was unfairly applied, especially as more stories emerged of Murray's on-set behavior. Young didn't hold back in later interviews, stating that Murray's charm was a mask for manipulative and aggressive conduct. Her career, already fraught with challenges, took another hit, while Murray's reputation remained largely untouched. The imbalance of power was unmistakable and devastating. These stories weren't about artistic disagreements or creative clashes. They were about something deeper: power, silence, and the cost of speaking up. For years, Bill Murray's eccentricity was seen as part of his appeal, a kind of genius that came with mood swings and unpredictability. But as more actors came forward, a pattern began to emerge, one that couldn't be explained away with charm or nostalgia. The difficult truth is that some of Murray's most memorable performances may have come at a painful price for those around him. These weren't just co-stars. They were people caught in the crossfire of a man battling his own volatility, wielding his stardom like a shield. If you've made it this far, and you're finding this deeper look into Hollywood's untold stories compelling, please like, subscribe, and comment below. We uncover the truths the industry often buries. Your support helps keep these stories alive. As more time passes and the spotlight shifts, the veil around Bill Murray's lovable curmudgeon persona continues to lift, and with it comes a wave of startling accounts from co-stars and collaborators who've remained silent for years. Perhaps the most unexpected story came from Seth Green, who stunned fans during a podcast appearance when he recalled a deeply disturbing incident with Murray on the set of Saturday Night Live. Green, just 9 years old at the time, was backstage when he sat on the armrest of a chair Murray apparently wanted. According to Green, Murray picked him up by the ankles and dangled him over a trash can, telling the terrified child he was garbage. While others may have laughed it off as an edgy joke, Green never forgot it. He described the moment as scarring, admitting that the fear and confusion lingered into adulthood. This wasn't a feud between peers. It was a powerful star asserting control over a vulnerable child, and it added a chilling footnote to Murray's legacy. Then came Solange Knowles, an artist and actress in her own right, and the younger sister of Beyoncé. While not as high-profile a collaborator, Solange found herself seated near Murray during an industry event in the 2010s. According to accounts that later surfaced online and in interviews, Murray reportedly made dismissive, condescending remarks toward her during the event, comments that hinted at racial and gender bias. Solange, known for her fierce independence and composure, refused to engage, but witnesses said the tension was obvious. Though the moment didn't explode into headlines at the time, it gained traction years later as more women, especially women of color, began to share their own experiences of being belittled or dismissed in Hollywood. Solange's silent resistance stood as a quiet act of dignity, and her fans took note. While Murray never responded to the claims, the story further chipped away at the myth of the harmless, quirky comedian and painted a picture of someone who often wielded power without consequence. But perhaps the most impactful feud was with Richard Donner, the veteran director behind classics like Superman and The Goonies. Donner directed Murray in Scrooged, and while the film is now considered a holiday staple, the set was anything but joyful. Donner later described Murray as incredibly difficult, saying the actor was constantly late, argumentative, and unwilling to take direction. The production became a battleground, with Donner struggling to keep the project on track, while Murray reportedly refused to cooperate. In interviews, Donner's frustration was palpable. He said Murray's behavior soured the entire experience, and that he would never work with him again. Coming from a director known for managing strong personalities, that statement was damning. For someone like Donner, who had worked with Mel Gibson, Gene Hackman, and Danny Glover, to call out Murray as uniquely unmanageable spoke volumes about the toll the film took behind the scenes. With these final three names, Seth Green, Solange Knowles, and Richard Donner, a pattern comes fully into focus. These are not isolated incidents or minor spats blown out of proportion. They are signs of a long-standing history of behavior that many in the industry either tolerated, dismissed, or concealed. Murray's reputation as a comedic genius is unshaken in the public eye, but behind the camera, the cost of that genius has been tallied by the people he worked with. It's not that Bill Murray was universally despised. Many still speak fondly of his moments of generosity, wit, and brilliance. But it's clear that a darker thread ran through much of his career. He could be cruel, erratic, and even aggressive, especially when unchallenged or enabled by his star power. Now, at 74, with decades behind him, Murray's legacy stands at a strange crossroads. He remains a legend, but one increasingly shadowed by accounts of pain, power, imbalance, and personal feuds. Some of those relationships, like with Harold Ramis, were mended just before death. Others, like with Lucy Liu or Gina Davis, remain unresolved. And still more, like with Seth Green or Richard Donner, exist now only as haunting echoes of a truth Hollywood long tried to laugh off. The real question isn't just who Bill Murray hated, or who hated him back. It's whether the industry will continue to overlook destructive behavior simply because it's attached to brilliance. In an age where stories once silenced are finally being told, perhaps the curtain has lifted for good. And maybe, just maybe, that's how healing finally begins.